thank you. I appreciate you guys for being here. This is amazing. Adonis, I'm seeing, just conversations we've had about this to actually being here. Yeah, thank you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so I already told everyone you're born in New York and raised in Atlanta, AC Dub. So, what's your ethnicity though?
I'm Haitian, so any other Haitians, anybody from the West Indies, bop, bop, bop. So yeah, my parents met in New York. I was born there. This place called Rockland County. It's like really, oh, you know where Rockland is. Anybody else know where Rockland is?
No.
I always have the hardest time trying to explain this because it's not upstate, but it's not in the city. It's like in this weird place, like 22 miles north of Manhattan. I always like.
How far from like Mount Vernon?
I would say maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your family, like your siblings, mom, dad. Tell me about your family.
So I have two sisters, one of whom is here tonight, Joanna. Thank you for picking me up from the airport. Good to see you. She just got back from Paris. She was studying abroad for like 5 months. So she's, back and adjusting, but I'm really proud of her. And then I have another sister, Jasmine, who's 10 years old.
Damn, so y'all really been global. That's dope.
Yeah.
All right, so what was things like growing up in your hometown? Really in Atlanta, like, how was it growing up here for you?
Yeah, I would say growing up in Rockland where I didn't know anything else other than, people who looked like me, thought like me, dressed like me, and then moving to Ackworth, Georgia. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Ackworth, but it's a complete opposite of where we're at right now.
Culture shock.
And who's in this room. And I think, for me, I was 14 when I moved. So a lot of my friends growing up, we tried to keep in touch. And then I also had to try and navigate a new landscape. I experienced racism for the first time. I grew up around Black, Hispanic, everybody kind of.
What house did you go to? What house?
I went to Ackworth.
Okay, cool.
So that was an interesting.
Graduated in what year?
2011.
Like when you graduated, did you know you were going to music, or you had something else in mind for yourself?
Oh, I was full on like pharmacy major.
Oh God.
My mom very much said I was gonna be a doctor, a pharmacist, a lawyer.
Well,
so that's what it was. And I was supposed to be a pharmacist, but it didn't work out, obviously.
Okay, so what made you pick Georgia State for your college to go to?
I actually led it up to my guidance counselors to mess it up for me. I thought I was going back to New York. I was going to St. John's, and my counselors never sent any of the transcripts to St. John's. So I technically only applied to schools that were in Georgia.
Oh, shit.
Just we were already in the system. So when I, realized that Georgia State was the closest option to being in St. John's, it was in the city. I was going to be able to move far enough so I could actually be on campus, but not far enough so I could come back home on the weekend if I needed to.
Did you live on campus or no?
I did.
Okay,
I
where you
did.
stayed
I lived in the Commons.
And
the Commons was popping back when I stayed there. It was like the #1 dorm room. I remember telling all my homies, yeah, I'm about to live in the #1 dorm room.
Building A was live. Building A, 13th floor.
I was building D. Building D.
What were you involved in on campus? Like what clubs and stuff were you into?
I think, the fact that I went to high school, it was a brand new high school. We didn't have upperclassmen. We literally were the 9th graders on campus, then the 10th graders, then we brought in the 9th graders. So when I got to Georgia State and I saw, people who had been in my shoes before, like you and Michael O and Kyrie and a few other people, I really just gravitated towards, the mentorship. And so I joined a step team. I was on a step team, P2.
Oh, God.
I just tried to be involved. I ended up starting a group with my homies. We put together panels.
What was the group?
Gentleman State University. I think I was at a time in my life where I would just wear suits to class. And
Boy, this way I don't suit on every
thing.
day. I'm talking about like a 3-piece suit on every day, no matter how hot, no matter how cold. Nigga was fly though, but was suited and booted, I swear. It was popping. That was really, really good.
It was cool because I was around people, and I think for me, I'd never thought I was creative. So I was able to express that, in the way I dressed, events I attended, and that kind of led to other things.
Yeah, because when I met you, you did brag too, right? The retail shit in New York.
Yep.
I just assumed you want to go into some fashion because how stylish you were.
Absolutely.
I didn't even know about the medical thing you had in mind.
Oh, if you spoke to me 6 years ago, I was for sure going to be a buyer working out in the corporate office in Macy's. I would have probably been able to get you guys some discounts. Like, it was a for real
Now you're getting
career
gifted.
path. Yeah.
Okay, so when was the transition between like medicine to music for you? When did that like?
Oh, it was
occur in your
easy.
mind?
I failed a chemistry class. Shasha's in here. She's a pharmacist now, and she went to Georgia State. And so I just remember like telling her I can't do this. Like, I failed the second class, and it was the first class I ever failed in my life. So for me, I figured I had nothing to lose at that point. It was like one of those moments where you just wake up and you decide you got to do what makes you happy, because you can't go through life just trying to please your parents and trying to please your friends. And that was kind of a low point for me at that time. I was kind of in a relationship that wasn't working out, and I was doing a bunch of things just to do them. I was on campus overly involved.
The whole being busy but
you
not
can
being
be
productive.
involved, but then overly involved is just a different level. And I think it
Yeah.
just all kind of tumbled and came crashing down when I failed that class. So it was like a fresh start. So I switched my major to marketing. And
Did you minor in something?
no, did not
Okay.
minor. I was not an overachiever.
I guess I was though. Whatever.
I did not.
So
I did not.
I would say you graduated in 2015.
Yeah, fall 2015.
Okay. So and then you moved to LA right afterwards, right?
2 or 3 days after I graduated, I moved to
Damn.
LA.
So what made you choose LA over New York, since you had the opportunity at that point?
I think back when I was interning, I spent the summer in New York. This was 2014. And, I'm talking about going to work, going to this internship every
Where did you
single
intern
day.
at in LA? Where was it?
In New York?
Yeah.
It was
New York?
Macy's.
Did you intern in LA too, though, right?
Afterwards.
Where was it?
NBC Universal. But that comes like later in the story. So, I was in New York for the summer. I dreamt about this internship, prayed about it, like studied, did all the interviews. Mentors were in this internship program, and I get there, and 2 months in, I have a situation where a group of friends of mine want to go to Toronto for OVO Fest. And so this is like the last week of my internship. You find out if you get the job later that week. So like Monday or Tuesday, a group of friends of mine were just like, yo, we want to go to Toronto. There's this festival, happens every year, OVO Fest. And, I'm the more logistical person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, where are we staying? How are we getting there? And who do we know? So I think that week I ended up just searching Twitter, trying to find a way to get to this festival.
What year was that for the
This
OVO
was
Fest?
2014. So I think I'd been reading that year Outliers and The Alchemist, and I think I was finally figuring out what the word finesse meant. And so for me, I was just trying to figure out like what radio stations, or I had keyword search OVO Fest on Twitter, and I ended up stumbling upon my mentor, Jamil. He posted a tweet about needing volunteers for this OVO Fest.
Okay, so after you met Jamil, then how did that relationship like evolve and develop? What did he evolve into?
So I actually sent him and his assistant at the time an email. It was a cold email. I didn't know the guy. I Googled him. I figured he was Drake's tour manager. And, I get this really, I guess, straightforward response back. He pretty much said, don't email me, email my assistant. And, this is after I'm spending, summer in New York, in super corporate America, where they'll tell you that they hate you in the nicest, most pleasant way. And he was just straight up like, nah. And, I think after that moment, I realized, okay, well, I gotta start figuring this out, because at this point, I've convinced my friends that we're going to OVO Fest. So we've gotten an Airbnb, we figured out, how we're getting there. The group of friends were gonna drive, I think that Thursday, get there before the weekend. I was gonna get on a Greyhound after my last day of the internship. And I emailed, or I hit up one of my friends in Toronto, the only friend I had in Toronto. I met her over Tumblr. I used to be an iPhoneographer, and I would just post pictures on Tumblr, and we ended up becoming pen pals. But that was the only person I knew in Toronto, and I figured, she lived in Toronto, she had a 416 area code number, she could hit them up, and it'd be her first impression, and they would easily say, yeah, come by and work. And then I was just going to finesse and just show up, because, I would have gotten the address by then, and that's kind of how it worked out. I packed my bags, got the internship job offer. So this is like Friday now. My friends are already in Toronto. Everybody's counting on me. I get on this Greyhound bus after work. I'm still in a suit and tie. And I think right before I crossed the border, I got a phone call from my friend. She was like, yo, they just called me. They want me to be at the amphitheater at this time tomorrow. You should be there. And so luckily I saw the call, picked it up, and I had a mission. As soon as I got to Toronto, I put my bags down. See, I thought that the suit was like a thing that I needed. It was like my armor. I didn't know how music or entertainment worked. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna show up in the suit and they're just gonna let me in. And it's not really how it works.
Blank stares.
I had no idea. So I walk and I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm about to manifest. I'm about to like do this whole thing where I tell the security guard that I'm here for a meeting. Even though I don't have a meeting, I'm just gonna finesse it. Hopefully cause like enough confusion to where he has to call for backup and then just keep it going from there. And so I get there, it kind of works out that way. The security guard calls Drake's security guards, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is a thing. So now I'm being escorted backstage, and I'm still in this suit. And I walk into Jamil's office, and Jamil is Drake's tour manager, and he's, probably dealing with Kanye and dealing with Outkast and all these different people. And meanwhile, I just walk into his office in a suit, a navy blue suit with a gray tie, and he just stops everything he's doing, looks around, and is just like, get this guy out of my office. Like, who's this guy in this suit? And so I had just spent like 12 hours on a Greyhound. Like, didn't even tell anybody I was doing this. And meanwhile, my friends were in Toronto. I'm supposed to be the plug for these tickets, and I just got asked to leave. So, I mean, I had no other option at this point. I think that's like the persistence in me. I just sat there or just stood there for like 15 seconds, felt like 5 minutes. It was like the longest silence, because I couldn't tell if he was joking. The security guards couldn't tell if he was joking, so we're all just looking at each other like, and luckily his assistant at the time, Tyler, ends up walking in, and I'd been coordinating with, back and forth on email with Tyler, and so he looks at me, he's like, James? And I'm like, Tyler? He's like, yeah, why don't you come over here and like take that suit jacket off? And so I ended up, having a conversation with him that like changed everything for me. I found out, he was Drake's tour assistant. He'd been with Jamil for about a year at that point. He had just graduated from college. He was a year older than me. He was a Virgo like I am. And at that point I was like, yo, whatever this guy's doing, like I have to do this. Like I'd never felt so, I guess, convicted in my life. And at this point, like I told you, I have my whole like 20-year plan, and I meet this kid, and immediately I'm like, I gotta move to LA, I gotta be a manager. I don't even know what that means, and I gotta work with these guys. So yeah, it was just a crazy encounter. But I think back to the book that I read, The Alchemist, I just learned from that you have to be able to follow your personal legend. Your journey isn't the same as Adonis's journey, isn't the same as Trayvon's, journey. And so, yeah, you just gotta pay attention to the signs.
Has anyone else read The Alchemist? Okay, good.
It's a really good book. I definitely recommend that. If you haven't, I probably have a PDF somewhere. I will email it to you. Just don't report me.
Yeah, it's seriously like one of the best reads I've ever had. I read it my senior year of college, and it definitely got me through that big ass confusion of like, am I gonna have a job? What am I gonna do with my life? And you figure out you're really on your manifest, your personal destiny, your personal legend. Okay, so you at OVO, I guess you learned how to pivot per se, and it worked well for you because it prompted you to move to LA. So like, give me like a brief overview of your career track. So where did you start when you got to LA?
So I guess before LA, I met these guys who all live in LA. So that was like the destination. I didn't really know anybody in Atlanta on that level that was able to be, accessible enough for me to, have a real conversation with. Later on in the story, Junior, who's somewhere in here, Junior, he and I, connected because he was starting to move around and do things in the city with Rory and his company LVRN. And I think after I had my mind set on LA, I kind of tried to work and do things to lead to that point. And so I remember getting back from Toronto, and I was working as a student assistant for Chandler Brown, who's in here somewhere. And, he probably doesn't even know the story, but I got my refund check that semester. Drake and Lil Wayne were on tour. I figured, if I was gonna try, I might as well like stalk these guys. So they came to Atlanta, and then afterwards, I think I bought 2 or 3 plane tickets. I knew they were going to Houston. I knew from Houston I could go to Dallas, and then from Dallas I could fly to Miami, and that was it. That was the end of the refund check. And every time, like my whole strategy, I had no strategy. I would just like fly out and then just be at the airport and text Jamil and Tyler like, yo, I'm in the city, can I please help you guys? And I wasn't doing anything glamorous. I was like a box office ticket runner. I was escorting guests. I was lighting candles in this guy's office. Like it wasn't anything major, but at the time I tried to make it look like it was it was something, but it was just I was volunteering. I wasn't getting reimbursed for anything, so this was all just coming out of my pocket, and I guess me investing in myself, which is like another important thing. Is, nobody's going to invest or believe in whatever your dreams are unless you're already doing so. And yeah, I think after that last plane, that last trip, that last show, I was in a place where I didn't know what to do. I was back in Atlanta, and I was stuck. I didn't know where I could move from here. And then I get a phone call like in March of 2015, like maybe 5 months after my last contact with from Jamil. He was in Dubai, so I get this call from Dubai, and I'm like, who's trying to scam me for money in Dubai? So I pick up, and it's Jamil. He's like, yo, are you in Atlanta? I'm like, yeah, I'm in Atlanta. He's like, yeah, all right, I'm in Dubai with Drake, but yeah, I have this G-Eazy guy I manage. He's coming to Atlanta to start recording his second album. I want you to meet him and my co-manager. I'm like, Jeezy? Like Young Jeezy? I didn't know what a Jeezy was, but
Yeah.
I knew at that point I needed something to keep going so I could keep believing in this. So I was, willing to meet this Jeezy guy at a studio, and similar thing. I was just showing them around the city. I was, I remember the first time I met Matt, who's his co-manager. Matt asked me, what I thought about this video, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I think this, that, and he was like, all right, cool. Here's a credit card. I need you to book this flight, put this hotel here, call this business manager, do this, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, the idea popped in my head that I could continue to do this work after they left, which was like my biggest thing. It was like, okay, how do I proceed? How do I keep doing what I'm doing? And that week they spent in Atlanta ended up being like my prove yourself moment. And that turned into them inviting me to this festival in New Orleans called the OVO Fest. And that led to South by Southwest. So, once again, I'm on a Greyhound because they had already booked their flights. They asked me if I wanted to go to New Orleans and South by, and I was like, let me check my schedule. And, luckily it was like spring break. So let me check my schedule. Was like, all right, let me figure out how I'm gonna call out of work and tell Chandler I'm not gonna be here for a few days and go take this leap of faith. And so I ended up on the Greyhound, picked up a rental van, like a 15-passenger van, and I was like the chauffeur. I didn't know that at the time, that was what it was. I thought I'm gonna be backstage, I'm gonna be with the crew, you think all these things until you're actually in it doing the work, and it was picking everybody up. It was making sure we got to the shows. It was then going to get food so that way when they got off the stage, they would, they'd be able to eat on the way to the next venue, and it was, nonstop grinding. I was in an Airbnb full of people, and, doing the dishes, like all this like non-glamorous stuff that you don't really see or nobody really talks about because, Instagram, you just post a photo of you guys walking down the street and it's lit. They don't really know what you had to do
exactly. They get that picture.
To be there. Yeah, exactly. To even get that picture. So, it just taught me just to, focus and do whatever task you were given the best and better than anybody, because anybody can drive a van, anybody can do these certain things, but what you're doing while you're doing those things is building trust and you're building a reputation. So after that week, G felt comfortable with me to the point where he'd be calling me, asking me to like book his mom a flight or do this and that to me was like where I guess the next part of the story goes. LA, like trying to get out to LA. So at this point, I wasn't getting paid for any of this. Like I think after that week, I might have gotten a $200 check. It was like my first check in music. I should have probably framed it because
Yeah.
I didn't even know, making money in this was possible at that point. But after that, I had to figure out how to be in LA because I'd made that decision a year ago. I knew I had some corporate experience. I knew my LinkedIn game was pretty strong, so I was going to be able to like finesse an internship in LA, and it worked out like that. I got an internship with NBC, so I was able to tell my parents throughout this whole thing. I'm not really explaining to them what I'm doing. I'm just saying I'm refocusing my attention on entertainment. I declined the job offer. Obviously, that was like a tough decision to make. From having this internship in your mind, but then knowing that you always wanted more, and then finding that thing that I guess that kind of just sets that all off. And yeah, I drove out to LA. So this was the first time I drove to LA. And I made a road trip out of it with my friends. I got to LA in like 4 days.
I remember that long ass trip.
Yeah, I probably called you a few times.
Yeah.
So I got out to LA. I know I needed a car. I actually gotta tell you a funny story about the first time I was in LA. So this is like before the summer that I went there for that internship. I went there for Coachella. Drake was doing Coachella. And I flew to LA, and I think I posted something like, yo, I'm at Coachella, and Junior sent me a text, and he's like, bro, you're not at Coachella. Like, you're in LA. Like, Coachella's like 2 hours away. But luckily, my guy, he had an Airbnb in Hollywood, and we ended up, just catching up. And then I got on another Greyhound to Indio Valley, which is where the grounds for Coachella is. But yeah, it's just a funny story.
Funny ass story.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to just be there, be
Right.
somewhere, and make it look good.
Because I feel like from how I've known you, you made yourself present, but you got into the room, but you always knew how to make yourself present and noticed. Like you're never like a waste of space. It always is like a good feeling when I see you in the room and you know how to work it.
Waste of space.
Because I ain't gonna front. Some niggas will pull up to an event and just be on the wall and be a waste of space. I feel like if you're gonna have the opportunity to go into these rooms, you should take the advantage of being able to work these rooms. And this guy always works the room. Like it's never been a time where I'm in Atlanta or LA and New York and you're not talking to like 17 different people and being memorable and being favored. So I think that's very, very, very impressive.
I think you just have to treat every encounter as, you meeting President Obama.
Exactly.
Or meeting whoever that person is for you, because I like to see people the way I would think they would be in like 2 or 3 years, or whenever they get to that point where they're at the top of their mountain.
Right.
A lot of people just look at people that are, horizontal to them and just poop on them, for lack of a better word. Like, this person's not doing what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna like not talk to this person or not exchange my number because I feel like I'm on a different, level than they are. And I feel like that's one of those like reoccurring things. It's probably like the third thing where I've noticed, just looking back on this short journey, is just I've treated everybody, I hope with, respect. And, one of those stories is, being at Vane and meeting this kid with this, hair all in his face that Junior told me I had to meet, because, he was going to be the next thing. And, this is like August 2015. I think I was hosting Vane for my birthday.
Yes, for your birthday.
So, I'm in Atlanta and, I meet this guy. He's like, yeah, my name is Black and, I do music and I can't send it to you because, I'm in a situation. But, if you come by, I'll play some music. I never met this guy before in my life. I hadn't even listened to a song, didn't know who he was. Probably had like 2,000 followers at this point. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'll come check out your music. I'm nobody that you should be playing your music to right now, but all right. I'll do it. And I went over there with my friend Justin, J-Mac, and, he was living at Justice and Tunde's spot.
West Side Brib.
So he brings us in, and he's like, yeah, this is my couch. This is where I sleep. This is my desktop. This is where I make my music. I don't do anything else. I only came to the party because they begged me to come to your party, and I'm just focusing on making this music. I'm just focusing on putting my 10,000 hours in. And to me, after reading that book, The Alchemist, and The Outliers, I was easily, able to see that this guy was gonna get to, the point that he wanted to get to. And I think that's also another part of the journey that you have to understand, that it's all about timing. Your timing is coming. So for people that are seeing this person on stage now and, on tour with The Weeknd, but they don't understand what he had to go through to even get to that point, the 2 years before, going to school, dropping out, moving to Florida, being homeless, finding a group of people that he trusted enough to, help guide his career, still being focused enough to wake up every single day before he got paid for it, making his music, focusing on his craft, whatever your craft is, and, doing it before anybody acknowledges that you're doing it. So yeah, seeing, the journey has kind of been very inspiring to me. I know you've played a very, big role in a lot of things going on. So I think I actually remember the first industry event I ever went to was because you invited me to. It was like this album release for Future. It was the Pluto album release. Like, I'll never forget it. Because at that point in time, I was still like, all right, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna finesse, like, I'm gonna bring a camera just in case anybody needs a photo, because everybody likes photos of themselves, so I'm gonna be the guy that's taking photos and having conversations. And yeah, it was the first time I'd been in a room like that, so appreciate it.
Oh man, no problem. That was, what a time, seriously. Okay, so I'm going back to your career track. After you work with G-Eazy, who else were you working with?
So I moved to LA at this point, and I was in such a rush to move, and a lot of people don't know this, that I didn't know where I was gonna live, and I ended up crashing on couches for a while, and I ended up living with G for like 5 or 6 months. And also, like, in between those times, I would like just go out, just try and make everything look better than what it was, and connect with people and build relationships. So for me, no matter who I met that day, or no matter what I thought I was doing, like, I would always have to go to a couch to sleep. So it was like a very humbling time, but it also taught me a lot just about perseverance. And no matter what the situation is, you got to work your situation until you get to the next, to the next step. And so working with G opened up doors for me to work with, some of my friends who are now starting to move with music. Made in Tokyo, it just, dropped a song, Uber everywhere, was able to move his whole family out to LA around that same time that I'd moved. So we kind of all reconnected, and, I started going to, different shows and helping the guys out. And through that, Little Dicky's manager reached out to me and was like, "Oh, I see you have experience with white rappers. You wanna work with us?" I was just like, "Wow, this is hilarious." I didn't really understand what was happening, but I knew he was talented, and I just took that opportunity to set myself up, in a way that I would be able to continue to build off that, and and then continue to do stuff with Tokyo, and from there, being on the road is like a never-ending cycle unless you decide one day to get off. Like, you can be on the road from now until 20 years from now. And I think for me, being on the road was important because in my path, I felt like I needed to meet a bunch of different people in different situations under different circumstances to build those relationships. And there was no other way I would be able to do that on my own, because I already spent my refund checks. I can't pay to travel as much as I would if I'm getting paid to do it. So I took that opportunity to say, you know what, let me go on the road and let me put in my work, and be in those situations to meet those people.
For now, like, what are some ways now you balance your career and your personal life? How do you balance it?
I think for me, that moment was like, I need to literally make a list of all the things that would make me happier. I still have this list in my phone, and it's like, I think, titled June Goals, because it's this time last year. And I put on there, go back to the gym, get a personal trainer. I got off Instagram, and, that can be a metaphor for whatever you have to, disconnect from in your life to really just be in a space where you can just add more positive habits to your life. I realized I was just spending time just scrolling, comparing, like, just always in this like thing. And I know for a lot of us, like, social media is how we eat. Like, people make money off of like being active, but I felt like for me, my personal like journey, what I was dealing with, I needed to kind of take a step back so I could focus on myself. And so I changed the way I would wake up and start my day, which was, I would wake up, thank God, meditate, whatever you do, and I wouldn't look at my phone first. And I know that probably just gave a lot of people anxiety, like not checking your phone when you wake up, but try it.
Yes.
Try spending time with yourself before you log into the matrix or before you start giving your energy to people, and you'll notice like the difference that you have. And because now you're looking at it as, okay, I know how I feel. If anybody else comes and tries to like give me this negative energy, that's how they're feeling. That's like has nothing to do with me. That's
Right.
like I put it as I let people be characters. I let you be your character. You'll figure it out. How you're acting has nothing to do about has nothing to do with me, and I'll just move about my day accordingly, and it helps.
I want everyone to think about how do you feel nourished outside of your career and outside of work. Like, how are you truly nourishing yourself? That really matters, because if you're not aligned in order personally, or like if you ain't shit, your work ain't gonna be shit either. So it's like really, I know people say it all the time, but I want everyone in this room to take it super seriously about putting yourself first and truly being your priority, not your career, you. Like body, mind, and spirit is such a real thing. And I think people, especially black people, ignore that shit. Like, it's a real thing. Like, seriously, take care of yourself. So, how did you start working with like Business Boy?
So
And tell people what Business Boy is.
So Business Boy is a producer I manage. He's from Milwaukee. He's done some work on Black's project. He's done some work with Party Next Door, Sway Lee, Elton John.
How many on Sway though? How many?
Four.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's a good friend of mine as well. And I met him about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, probably 2 years ago around this time. And it was through an artist goes by Ye Ali. So one of the things I do is if somebody's always bringing somebody's name up and they're like, oh, you should meet so-and-so, I'll cold DM them, I'll cold email them, I'll cold call them, because you never know. And I think, a lot of stories that I've probably touched on have started with me just reaching out. I think sometimes we feel like we're so entitled, people should reach out to you, or people should like be in your face, when if you put your pride aside for like 2 seconds and you go talk to John, you go talk to whoever is working the door or whatever, you might end up in a completely different state of mind and end up changing your life or somebody else's life. So anyway, I reached out to this guy, Ye Ali. I kept hearing about him. Hey, I'm in LA, do you want to link? Keep hearing about you. Cool, let's link. All right, so he invites me to this place, and it ends up being Business Boy's place. And so now we're all just, I think this was like 2016, we're all just hanging out, watching the NBA Finals. I think this was the year LeBron beat the Warriors. And so it was just a real, like, organic, just connecting just to connect. We're all in LA, we're all young, we're all trying to do what we're doing. And that ended up leading to me inviting Ye Ali and Business Boy on this tour that I was tour managing. It was a tour that happened in January of last year, the 24 hours. And so I figured, hey, we're on this tour, it'd be dope for you to open up. And I know, you probably don't want to leave for like 2 or 3 weeks, but you can bring your producer, Business Boy, and you guys could do like the producer DJ thing. So that was like my first time professionally we connected. And you learn a lot about people when you're road tripping with somebody.
Yes.
For a few days, a week, 2 weeks.
Months.
And it could be a positive experience, or it could be a negative experience. Luckily for us, it was positive. And after that situation, that tour, I ended up keeping him in mind for other things, connecting him with different artists. And at that point, he hadn't really done everything he's done now, but he was very much on an upward trajectory. And I think it's all about connecting with people to the left and to the right of you, who may not be where they're gonna end up, but can help you in the same way you can help them get to that place. So yeah, I think after like a few just back and forth connecting with different people, I was like, let me connect with your manager. Like, I want to do this appropriately. I don't want to always have to hit you. I know you're creating, I know you're busy making beats. Who do I speak to about inquiries? And he was like, I just have an attorney, I don't have a manager. And so I think maybe March of last year, I'm like, all right, cool, let me like think about how I would do this. But meanwhile, I'm like on the road, like every 3 days, every 4 days, spending a week at a time. So I was just gone. And I think that point in June, at this time last year, where I was like, I gotta get off the road, I immediately thought of him, because he's someone who I can say doesn't just look at a situation for what it is right now, kind of looks at things 10 or 15 years down the line. So whereas a lot of producers are just like, I just want a quick hit, I just want to get this #1 and then like, spend money on a chain. He's like, I want to be a Timbaland, I want to be like a Pharrell, I want to be a Jimmy Jam, a Terry Lewis, a Quincy Jones kind of producer, and actually leave a legacy behind. And when you think of me, you're not going to think of just not only the sound that I'm helping create, but you're going to think about the artists that I'm helping push to the culture. And so, yeah, we started working together. around this time last year. And, haven't really looked back since.
You've been doing a really, really great job with him. I've noticed the 4 out of 7 Sway Lees, right, which is really, really amazing. All the music is really good. And then I hear you guys have one with Elton John.
Yeah.
What project is that on?
So Elton John did this album of it was pretty much a cover album. He revamped all the songs, and he had some contemporary artists of the day like Pink and Logic and Mary J. Blige, do their take on his classic songs. And I met Mary J. Blige's A&R around this time last year. We connected. Eddie Forcell ended up becoming one of my really good friends in music, and I think we had a friendship first. And so it all just goes back to actually being genuinely friends with people that you work with, because they'll always be able to think of you for opportunities, because you're not always hitting them up for tickets, or you're not always hitting them up for this, and I think in that moment he reached out to us because he had this opportunity, he knew we could kill it, and at that point you just gotta shoot your shot. And yeah, we ended up placing a record on an Elton John project, which is probably like one of my, I guess, favorite accomplishments so far, is just being able to see that through. Like, I would have never thought like trying to finesse into OVO Fest would have like led to being part of somebody as legendary like that, this project.
Okay. So have you ever felt like someone or a brand was trying to take advantage of you? How did you handle it, if so?
That's a good question. You're always gonna have people in your life that try and take more than they give. And you just have to surround yourself with people who do the opposite, who would give rather than just take. Because you get to a point where, you're going to sleep and you're just thinking about your day, and, you don't want to think about everybody that's just like using you. And, because at the end of the day, what do you have? Like, you just have yourself, your peace of mind. And I think there's just been situations where, people will start seeing, oh, you're posting these, types of pictures, so you must be with these types of people, and they'll hit me up. And, we did a concert back in like 2015, Zip K's concert, and, a lot of people wouldn't have wanted to come, or, wouldn't have wanted to see this act that went on in between Zip's performance, back then. And now they probably hit him up and say, yo, so-and-so, or can you get me, tickets to this show? And it's just funny. You just deal with people accordingly. You know how it is. You know what they want, and on the same token, you also have to see what it is and not let it get to you. So you have to also be able to be used. So when I mean be used, you have to be able to set certain things up for people and not expect anything in return, and be fine with that.
Besides that, like, what's been the most difficult pill to swallow? Like, while progressing your career, would it be that, or like something else? Like, the most difficult thing, like, you realize, like, damn, this is the hardest thing about my career?
I would say, if you're not always out on the scene, like, let's say you're, taking time to just perfect your craft, and you're off the scene for a few months. You're not on social media, you're not on Edgewood, you're just like focusing on what you want to do and who you want to be. Sometimes the phone stops ringing. People only hit you when they see that you're doing well, and, they don't think to hit you at moments where you're probably at your lowest. Because
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
shit.
out of sight, out of mind is tough, and you're only as good as your last thing, your last endeavor, your last project,
post.
your last post. And that's probably been like the hardest to swallow, because I try and move through life as a good-hearted person, and I'll check on people and not want anything, and you think that's the way it would go, but entertainment is like, it's cutthroat. Like that line in the Block Boy JV song, like, industry is cutthroat, I'm not the same. Like, I understand how people can get to the point where they're just like, they just close themselves off because people are just abusive in the way they treat relationships. But there's always the positive side of that. You find in those moments the people 5 months ago when you couldn't, pay for brunch, you find those same people in your life when you do have money to buy, the table, or buy the bar, whatever it is. So yeah, you just learn to appreciate the people that really mean something to you and care about you more.
Okay. So tell me about how you got involved with Universal.
So I'm an A&R as well for Universal Music Publishing Group. And those conversations came about through Business Boy, my producer, who's unsigned at the moment. So a lot of times, when you're doing your thing as a young person of color, young person in general, people will kind of see and they'll try and like take and like just try and run off with the sauce, for lack of a better phrase. And I think at that point, I gotten to the point where I knew I was doing this independent. I knew I'd been doing this on my own. I haven't really been inside or been at a corporate place for the last 2 years of just hustling. And I took pride in that. I took pride in being able to like figure it out. It was tough. It wasn't like I wouldn't suggest that to anybody who's not like able to call a friend and sleep on the couch for a few months or figure it out. But in those moments, I ended up finding what was important to me, and not only me, but what's important to my client. And so when I'm having these meetings and I'm having these conversations with people, I'm not really going in there, expecting them to show us the world. I'm really going in there thinking, what do you guys have to, like, what do you guys want? What do you guys have to offer? Because we know exactly what we want to do. We have a plan. And when you have a plan and you have focus and you have vision, nobody can really steer you wrong. And I think, a lot of it came from, reading articles or learning from other people's experiences. Like, I read this article almost like every day for like a week back in November because I was just going through a time where I'm just like, forget everybody trying to finesse me. Like, I got to stay focused. And it's this article on DJ Booth that for those in the music industry or want to be in the music industry, Brent Faiyaz, his manager, did. He did an interview. And for me, I thought that interview was like, I take, from what I read, I take, bits and pieces of things. Sometimes it's not the whole story, it's not the complete story, but I take what I take. And so from that, I took the fact that he and Brent said, this is our proposal. If anybody wants to do business with us, these are the terms. And when you go into these rooms and you're an artist or you're an independent artist and you're thinking, yo, as soon as I sign a record deal or as soon as I get a publishing deal, everything's gonna be gravy, and then you get that first like proposal and it's like, yeah, sign your life away here, you have a decision to make. And if you don't already have a vision for yourself, you don't have a plan, you're falling in a situation that you'll probably never be able to get out of. And that's the case, and that's the reality for a lot of creatives, a lot of young people, a lot of black people in business, is, they don't understand and they don't know what they don't know. And so I was able to kind of take from that an energy of, unless it's on our terms, we're not doing it. This is, the number, these are the terms, and had a lot of conversations. We met with everybody on the label side and on the publishing side. And
so, like, people that don't know, tell them what the difference is.
So publishers are who, help musicians and producers, creatives, artists make money from their works. If you put a song out, you're owner or copyright owner. So you can get, your money collected. It's a long, more complicated thing. So that's publishing, copyrights. And then the label side is where, they'll put out your songs, they'll put out your albums, and they'll help build your career. And, you can get either a label deal, publishing deal, or both. And so, when we were talking publishing, I met with everybody. I did my due diligence, we built the relationships, and a lot of times we'd be in the room, and as much as it is about my client, it's also about myself, because I'm still here, I'm still very much in the room, helping connect the dots. And so I think they saw what we were doing on our own, and they were trying to like take and say, okay, well, why don't you just come over here so we can have both of you guys? And I'm like, whoa, it's not gonna work like that. Like I've been building this for the last 2 years. We know what we want, so you're not gonna come here and have a conversation with me as if I don't know what I know already. And yeah, we just had a few conversations back and forth, and I felt like they understood the fact that I'm independent on the management side. I don't need, any assistance. And I'm gonna bring that same energy, that same, eat what you kill mentality to this situation. And if it's something we can agree on, cool, send the terms to my attorney. And, she got the terms back, we talked about it, sent whatever her notes were, and they ended up saying, we see the value that you bring, we see the way you've been doing it, and because you know what your value is and you know what your worth is, we know what your value is. So, here's an offer, and yeah, couldn't turn it down. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
What's your favorite thing about working in entertainment? Your favorite thing?
I wake up every single day, and I never really understood when people would say, while I was in college, figure out what you love to do because then you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's the most like enjoyable part of this is like I wake up every single day, no matter what I'm dealing with this client or what, situation's happening, I can wake up and say, I love what I'm doing. Like I enjoy doing this. I can't say for me I would have enjoyed, being a buyer as much because I didn't feel as connected to what I was doing, and that goes for anything you do, whether you're, a pharmacist, whether you're, a Lyft driver, whatever it is. Like if you don't love what you're doing, you're not gonna be able to do it successfully, and do it for a long time. So yeah, I would just encourage everybody in the room, like it's never too late. If you're 35 or if you're 30 or if you're 20 or whatever, 40, whatever it is, like if you have an idea, you have a dream, just go, do it. Like you're only on this earth one time. So, just do it, whatever it is.
Okay. What are some things our generation of entrepreneurs need to improve on?
I would say the whole instant gratification thing, just because you put a picture on Instagram, you expect it to get 100 likes. Or you put your first mixtape out, you expect it to get X amount of spins. Or you've done your first job interview, you expect to get the job. And I think we're so used to people, coming out of nowhere and becoming overnight successes or whatever they're doing, and we just see it from like the face value. Like, oh, okay, they're here, so I have to be here. And we keep comparing ourselves, and we keep thinking that we have to, follow everybody else's path. And I think, even for myself, it's tough to, take yourself from that. But once you do, you're able to see everything a lot clearer. Like you're already where you're supposed to be. You're already, doing what you need to be doing. So whenever that happens for you, whenever everything clicks, that's when it's supposed to click. Of course you can do things in your life to make sure when that opportunity comes, you're ready. There have been times in my life where something has come and I wasn't ready for it. Like being, so back in like 2014 when I'm like flying to Drake shows, I'm meeting people around him. So I'm meeting this guy, his name is Paul. He goes by 1985. He's a producer. He's part of Division. He's the producer of Division. And at the time, he just had a song, Just Hold On, We're Going Home with Drake. That was like Drake's biggest song at the time. And so I meet this guy backstage, and he's super humble, exchange contact, and I'm like I'm a new manager now, so I'm gonna like send him my artist music. So I sent him, artist music, and he calls me on FaceTime in the middle of like my chemistry class that I ended up failing. And I'm like, oh wow, I gotta pick up this call. 1985 is calling me. So we talk, and he's like, yo, who is this artist? Where is this artist from? Like, I love this music. Who's his manager? Where's he signed? Ask me all these questions, and I'm green, I'm fresh, I'm new. I don't know what's happening, but I think this is a good sign. So, we end up talking, and he sends me a whole like proposal. He listened to the entire mixtape. The mixtape was like 17, 18 songs. And he called me from like the Versace mansion in Miami, like just, I guess his free time, only free time he had. And so he calls and says, I want to like put together this, like I want to pretty much repackage this mixtape and put it out and add these certain things. And I still have like a spreadsheet of like all these notes that he just wanted to include, just out of being just a genuinely just passionate person about the music. And because I wasn't ready for that opportunity, I didn't really understand how to bring opportunity to client in the right way, in the way that it would be received, and he would feel positive about it. Because when I brought it to him, he felt like, oh, this guy's trying to rip me off. This guy's trying to like, oh, he needs to pay for this. We're gonna have to like work that out. And of course, you have to handle business, but before the business side, you have to build a rapport. You have to build a relationship. So you can't just like stop the flow, stop the relationship about to be formed with just like, yo, I need this and that with your demands. And because I wasn't able to like manage, I messed that situation up to the point where it was like, yeah, I'm sorry, we're gonna need some money to do this. And this is like 1985. He did, Just Hold On, We're Going Home, Hotline Bling, One Dance, like Division. Like this is the guy for the type of music this artist was making. And I think that was like one of those moments where, I forgot what the question was, but you just look and you just think to yourself, dang, I wasn't ready. But because we're so used to things happening overnight, that's what it was. Because we're so used to things happening overnight, we skip steps and we skip lessons and we overlook things and we overlook signs. And I think that's like our biggest flaw, our thing holding us back as a generation. We just have to take our time and just, take our time, take your time.